Hi everybody, this is Craig Tanner for The Mindful Eye and the Daily Critique. Today's image was submitted by Larry, who is an advanced photographer from Houston, Texas. The backstory on this one is that Larry gave himself an assignment to shoot a series of portraits, mainly of workers. And Larry says this is one of his favorites from the series so far, and I can understand why. It's a stunning portrait. And Larry shot this with a Nikon D3. It's a full-frame sensor camera. He used a 70-200 f2.8 zoom and worked at the long end of the zoom, 150 millimeters, stopped down to f5.6. Shot this at a 60th of a second at ISO 200. I'm going to talk a little bit about just that metadata for 1 second here. One of the things that I would say that might be a decent takeaway from today's critique is just paying attention to that lens. That's a heavy lens in both Nikon and Canon, an expensive lens, but it's a really great lens in my opinion for these kinds of formal headshots or head and shoulder portraits or slightly environmental portraits. And I love the long end of this kind of a lens at a true 150 millimeters or even longer, going up to 200. That allows you at wider open apertures to get a flow of focus to help your subject separate from the background, difference between sharp and out of focus. And the other thing about these longer focal lengths is it can really help to give the feeling of the features of the face being flattened out a little bit. And particularly with adults, that can be a way to make someone look more pleasing than not in the portrait. And the other thing about a focal length that's this long is it gives you quite a bit of working distance from your subject, and working distance is something that can have a huge sort of unconscious or subconscious effect on people that aren't models. If you have a shorter lens and you're trying to come in and do this kind of environment thing, maybe a 50 millimeter lens, and you're getting really close, just being inside of someone's sort of area of comfort can start to have an effect on how the shoot goes. So I love this focal length. Larry has been kind enough to share quite a bit of lighting information with us here. Larry used a multitude of lights here. He mentioned the Strobist is a place that he went to learn a lot about lighting, and I can't agree more. Almost everybody that's hearing this already knows about Strobist. But if you don't, put Strobist into the Google and you want to learn about lighting with the little flash units that you can get with your SLR that go on top of the camera, or they can go off of the camera. It's a great place to go and learn about working with small flash units. Larry has one of those units that is actually shining through an umbrella. He's got 3 front lights. Those are lights in front of the portrait subject. And you know, we typically think of a photographic umbrella and then having a light here with a head and a reflector, and the light comes out and it bounces off of the umbrella and becomes a much bigger light source, but a pretty specular hard edge light source coming off of a pretty intense reflector on the inside of the umbrella. Lots of umbrellas are layered. You can get the reflective material off. That leaves a translucent layer so that the light actually shoots right through the umbrella, and the umbrella doubles as a softbox. That's nice for 2 reasons. You get a bigger, softer light source than your little flash unit. It also warms the light up when you shine it through this translucent white material. And if you're shooting at daylight like Larry is here on the sensor, that can take your key light and make it appear warm, maybe like end of the day warm light on your portrait subject, and that can help your portrait subject to separate from the background. If there's a cooler quality of light in the shade behind your portrait subject, or you light it cooler back there. 2 other lights up here, again little Nikon flash units with snoots. A snoot is a lighting control that narrows the beam of the light down. It focuses the light opposite of sort of shooting through the umbrella and getting a big broad light source. He's got a snooted light hitting the face and another snooted light that's hitting the chest. I'm not quite sure where these lights are. I just know they're in front of the firefighter. And then he has another lighting control somewhere over here. I bet you this one is over here just because it looks like this is the direction of fill. He's got a reflector that's probably catching 1 or more of these lights and adding some fill light. And then he's got one other light source that is hitting the background here. So let's talk about just the lighting for a second. Larry, in his comment section, he says, what do you think of the lighting? I tried to make it look like it was natural. So let's just talk about that part of it for a minute while we're on this kick. I love the lighting here. It looks very natural back here. This looks like end of the day light that could be coming through a garage door at the firehouse. This lighting looks a little bit more like photographic lighting, but I think it works really well in this context. I'm saying that because this light on the face is probably from the snooted flash. It's pretty specular. What do I mean by specular? There's a lot of little reflections of the light source in here. You see it there and there and there and there, and you see it in the catch lights. You see it right in there. One thing that can be a downer about these kinds of flash units is the smaller our light source, relative to our subject size, the more sort of local contrast and specularity that we're going to drive, but that can work really well too. One of the things I like about the specular feeling of the light here, even though it's not totally natural, has a little bit of kind of an etched metallic feeling that goes along with all this metal on the side of the fire truck. It's also getting a lot of light into the eyes, and it's creating a metallic feeling in the eyes, and that combined with the gesture, combined with who the firefighter is in the story. I want to talk about a civilian hero. Anybody that signs on to be a firefighter in my book is near the very top of my list in terms of just brave and providing an outrageous service to the rest of us. Firefighters generally don't make that much money. It's one of the most dangerous jobs, if not the most dangerous civilian job out there. It's service oriented. And so there's just such a powerful archetype of a heavy, heavy, heavy character in the story. And the sort of steely feeling to the skin because of the specularity of the light, the steely kind of gray-blue eyes here, and they're really coming forward because Larry got a lot of light in there. The pointed catch lights, the very intense, dead on the level, right at us gaze, all of that is working really well. So I'm not so concerned about this feeling natural in here. I think it's really beautiful how natural this feels in the background. So